Hey YouTube, it's your history teacher, Mr. Terry here once again with another History Teacher Reacts video. Today we are headed back to everyone's favorite channel, which is the Salmonella Academy. And today's video that we're going to check out is titled Joshua Norton, the only United States Emperor. So that's a pretty fascinating premise right there. So I'm excited to check out one of the many interesting historical stories that Sam always has for us. Now, before we begin, make sure that you click his link. It's down below to the original video, so you can give him the like. I'm sure you're all subscribed, but make sure you're watching the video, give him the view time, all the support that needs to happen over to his awesome channel over there. And if you haven't subbed to my channel, I'd love to have you around our community as well. You can also join our Discord server to interact more with our community. Also, if you're a gamer, check out the new Mr. Terry Gaming channel. We do a lot of Let's Plays and videos related to gaming over there. All right, and with that, let's go ahead and get started. Let's see who the heck Joshua Norton is.
This video is sponsored by Wix.
Big brain music. Good. The only United States.
Let me ask you, do you watch the news often? Have you attended a school in your life?
Sure.
You ever look at a dollar? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, then chances are you're familiar with at least a couple United States presidents. But if you're like me prior to last week, you've probably never heard of a United States emperor. Excuse me, good sir, but I should inform you that we're actually living under an emperor as we speak, at least according to my degree from the University of Reddit. Hey, that's great. Whoa, look over there.
Reddit
it's someone
people
criticizing Elon Musk.
They're a worst type of
and
people.
He's making typos. Anyway,
the internet
let me tell y'all a story about a man named Joshua Norton.
I don't go on Reddit like ever, but all I ever hear is that's like who Reddit people are.
Was born in England at some point in the 1810s. Very little is known about the guy's younger years, other than the fact that he spent most of his youth in South Africa as part of the UK's colonization programs.
Colonization programs. Yeah, 1810, that's a huge, still a huge era for the British Empire. They basically lost control of the United States by then. The United States revolution's over. They saw independence, but South Africa was a huge colony for them, and the most important overseas colony was definitely India.
He came to San Francisco in 1849 with a modest amount of wealth to his name, and worked his way up in the real estate and commodities markets to become one of the city's wealthiest citizens. All was normal in the life of Mr. Norton, until one day when he got a little too big for his britches. You see, in 1852, China was facing a huge famine, so they completely banned the export of rice. Naturally, San Fran's rice price began to skyrocket in response to the reduced supply, peaking.
Usually the British have not responded well when the Chinese government, you would be Qing dynasty here, would have done anything economically that would hurt like Britain as a trade partner. So if you see that with like rice, where that's going to come, a lot of food's going to come out of, they're not going to export it. Makes sense for China because they don't want to be exporting food when they are starving to death, right? And then you look also at something like when they banned opium, right? Very addictive drug, and the British said no, that's like a fifth of our economy is dealing drugs, essentially. So we're gonna enforce you to keep trading that with the opium wars. So the British are very serious about protecting their economic interests all over the world.
Looking at 36 cents per pound. Norton saw this and decided to buy a $25,000 rice shipment from Peru at 12 cents per pound, thinking he'd corner the market. Keep in mind, that's around $750,000 in today's money. Little did he know that wasn't the only shipment coming out of Peru, and by the time he was able to sell it, rice was already back down to 3 cents a pound. Now, according to my calculations, that put Norton at a net loss of a whole frickin' lot. He subsequently got into a years-long court battle with the vendor who sold him the shipment, which only cost him more money, and ultimately left the man destitute.
So how's this guy gonna become emperor?
What anybody would do after losing everything. He drank a nice hefty dose of fuck it all and said, you know what? The courts can eat my shorts, the house can eat my blouse, Peru can eat my shoe. I declare myself emperor of these United States, and I'm telling every newspaper in the city about it. And then he did. Now the papers...
Yep, seems like alcohol will be involved there. Just declare yourself emperor. I've talked to my in classes before about what declaring anything does, which is often nothing, right? Talk about like, okay, the Americans declared independence from Britain. Okay, nothing happened, right? And then there had to be a war over it, and then eventually the governing body, being Britain, had to agree to that, I guess. And then you're, I guess, kind of a country, but go outside and declare. I've said that before, like, or just, just go outside and be like, I am, the king of something. I declare independence from something, or just show up somewhere and be like, this is mine now. Nothing happens. So my question is, did he actually get some, I guess, go through some type of, I don't even know what you would call it, steps to have this somehow become official? And did anyone acknowledge it?
This could have just been like, what a lunatic, and that would have been the end of it.
Yeah, let's go back to that part.
Now, the papers could have just been like, what a lunatic, and that would have been the end of it. But instead they said, you know what, this guy's kind of a meme. Let's publish his declaration, just for gits and shiggles. People across the city had their laughs, and Norton's rise to power began. From here, he issued several more commands to the media.
So we're kind of making fun of him,
unlike nowadays, people loved having regular Norton updates shoved in their face. Among these announcements was a decree in 1859 to formally abolish the United States Congress. He also gave out a mandate to both the Protestant and Roman Catholic churches to formally ordain him as emperor.
Okay, hold on, let's see. Whereas a body of men calling themselves the National Congress are now in session in Washington City in violation of our imperial edict on the 12th of October last, declaring the said Congress abolished. He abolished it. Nice. Oh gosh, what's this? Not actual quote. Okay, me, my big boy, Mr. Pope and Santa, come touch my sweet little head and call me a good boy. You Milkies and we can watch Thomas also. Okay.
Although these edicts were ultimately ignored by the powers they were addressed to, they still served to build Norton's reputation around the city, and before long he was a fully fledged local celebrity. He was easily...
I feel like today, if you sent something like that to the government, you're probably going to get the Secret Service, the FBI, somebody's going to come knocking on your door because you don't seem to do well, and you could be an actual threat. But back then, they probably just like, bah. But yeah, probably don't want to try this now unless you are ready to face the powers that be.
Recognized by passerby, typically sporting a blue naval uniform and a beaver hat with a peacock feather in it. Pretty soon, Norton could expect to receive the royal treatment wherever he went. People started to address him formally on the streets, he got to ride public transport for free, and he even got occasional tax payments from people sympathetic to his impoverished living situation.
It sounds like people just kind of giving into his joke, kind of like, hey, keep this up, because it is kind of like a meme, like leading him on. You wonder if they really took it seriously. They just kind of was humoring him.
Oh, and get this, Norton became so famous that toy stores in the city began selling dolls of the man for kids to play with. How many people can you think of that were so legendary that they got dolls made after them?
Someone let me know if they can buy them or something on eBay or something.
Emperor Norton, Mr. T, and the bear that Teddy Roosevelt decided not to shoot. That's it, really. Also, though not backed by actual law,
I'll also take a Mr.
his
T doll.
declarations came to be taken
I'm
relatively
Mr. T too.
seriously by the populace around him. For example, according to
reusing the drawing.
Frisco instead of San Francisco would be punishable by a $25 fine. Talk to any Frisco native and you'll find that this attitude survives to this day. With the help of a local printing firm, Norton even issued his own currency, which was actually accepted by many residents of the city, despite having no backing behind it whatsoever. Yeah. In fact, a few Norton bucks are still floating around today.
Well, interestingly, people talk about how money today has no backing. It used to be the case, like in the United States, that your dollar was backed up by a dollar's worth of gold that the government held. And technically speaking, you were supposed to be able to exchange it. But using paper money is a lot easier to exchange than actual gold. And then eventually that, what they call removing the gold standard, so that you don't have that tied anymore, which does make inflation a little more common because money is now only largely valued by how much of it exists. It's not backed by anything else. You just have to live in a society that will commonly agree that money has a value, and we all basically trust what that money is valued at.
As highly valued collector's items. I tried doing the same thing a while back, but unfortunately, Onella rubles are still only worth their weight in Onella rubles. Of course, it wasn't all magpies and molasses.
Sure, they're expensive now, so people watch this.
He was once arrested by a policeman named Armand Barbier.
Oh, come on, Armand.
Throw him in an asylum for his apparent insanity. Needless to say, when the public caught wind of this, they lost their fucking minds. Irate citizens wrote complaints in droves.
They loved him,
All the newspapers published scathing editorials towards the police department. Stray cats were thrown into into wood chippers. I don't have any evidence for that last one. I'm just,
Whoa.
assuming based on what I would do in this scenario. Anyway, pretty soon, the chief of police got the memo, and Emperor Norton was released unscathed. Thankfully, Norton issued a
Public's
royal
behind
pardon
him.
towards the man who arrested him, and from that point onward, whenever Norton passed a member of the force, they would stop and salute him. So, although in many ways he appeared
Salutes
godlike, Norton was
for Norton.
immortal. And
Mr.
as
Norton.
mortals sometimes do, Emperor Norton decided to drop dead on a street corner on January 8th
Of course,
1880.
uneventful,
However,
right?
he left behind a legacy, the likes of which most of us could only dream of. Beyond just the comedic value of his many exploits, Norton definitely had his prophetic moments, with some of his orders actually coming true decades after they were given. On multiple occasions,
Like
he
what?
ordered a bridge to be built between San Francisco and the Oakland Bay Area, which was eventually
Golden Gate Bridge?
constructed in the 1930s. He also told people to form a League of Nations to uphold international interests. Unfortunately, a man yelling in California wasn't quite enough to convince the leaders of the world that such a thing was necessary. But who knows? Maybe little Nordo could have stopped World War I if he had been just a bit louder. I hope this tale has inspired some of you young impressionable
Nordo.
kids out there. Not because I expect any of you to succeed in the same way Norton did, but just because it's my personal belief that the world could always use more oddball vagrants. Wait a minute. Oddball vagrants. Product placement. Sponsor time. Question.
Segue.
Do you do literally anything? If the answer is yes, then chances are you could get a lot of use out of a website powered by Wix. You can give your small business the professional makeover it deserves, or show off your art and other hobbies in any style or layout you can imagine. Even if you don't do anything with your life, then hey, today's as good a day as any to try your hand at web development. Wix does all the heavy lifting for you, meaning even a novice can create stunning pages of all
Even
shapes
me.
and sizes. Beyond just the aesthetic aspect, Wix also
I wouldn't know
offers
what to
tons
do.
of other services for your site, like custom domain names and email services. Oh, and did I mention it's free? So please, try Wix today.
Sounds
anyway,
too good to
that's
be
all
true.
for today. Till next time, I'm Salmonella, and thank you for watching.
Awesome. Well, that was great. I love those stories. Reminds me like the dude he talked about that like kept eating Terrare or whatever his name was. He like couldn't stop eating, and there's the guy that like kept failing and like making money and stuff like that. Now he finds all these interesting people throughout history. But I think the most interesting part was that he seemed to kind of be beloved by the community. I think the people thought, I guess he was like harmless and just kind of like indulged him. I guess the people of San Francisco in the 1800s had that kind of sense of humor towards someone that may have been clinically insane or something like that. But it seemed like at first maybe he had his wits about him because he made this like big business deal, to get the rights and all that. And then it backfired. And I don't know, it sounds like maybe that's what like tipped him off with that sort of thing there. So pretty cool. So historical context, San Francisco was buzzing at that time. You have, going back to the 1840s and 50s, a huge population boom, of course, with the gold rush, which really put that whole area on the map. Sacramento, San Francisco as a port city for a lot of that development, and also becomes a huge entry point for immigrants, especially Chinese ones that came across during a lot of these famines and stuff like that. Some of the Chinese people that are able to make it out, a very tumultuous time in China, coming over and working in all kinds of industries, famously the railroad industry, and a lot of hazardous jobs that came across that. So San Francisco, this is where we really see San Francisco kind of got on the map. And it looks like it had some interesting characters as well that you could have met, I guess, going up and down the street there. Would have been an interesting guy. I'm sure he would have been interesting to talk to and just get his opinions on stuff. So would you have observed him as your emperor of the United States of America? Let me know in the comments what you think about this guy. All right, well, we're going to head out here. The original video link, again, is down below. Links to other stuff down below. Thanks for supporting the channel here, and we'll see you next time. Bye.